Thank you for tuning in to the Northeast region's headquarters for hunting-related stories and tactics, sourced from DIY hunters and industry insiders. This is Hunting the Empire. Now here's your host, Joe Mainville.
Hey everybody, Joe here with another episode of the Hunting the Empire podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Got a bit of a different show here for you today. This is going to be kind of a biography of Sean McVeigh with Sean's Outdoor Adventures. We're going to talk a bit about his past, kind of how he got into the hunting industry, how he evolved his YouTube channel, and a competition that he's put together called the Map Reading Challenge, which I've had the privilege of being a part of for the past couple of seasons. We are in the midst of Map Reading Challenge 2017 as we speak, and wanted to give you as listeners of this program the opportunity to learn more about Sean and what he's got going on and how you can yourself win prizes like a brand new Bowtech bow and a brand new XOP tree stand. So here we go. All right, and on the line I got Mr. Sean McVeigh. How we doing,
What's
Sean?
up? Good. How you doing?
Good. Glad to have you on, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So this is kind of a special episode that I wanted to get out there for everybody to hear before the Map Reading Challenge starts this fall, and we're approaching it pretty quick, man.
Yeah, it is upon us, my friend.
Oh, I can't wait! I'm so excited. So why don't for people who are living under a rock here, tell them about Sean McVeigh. Who are you, and what do you do here that everybody can find out more about you?
So I grew up in Pennsylvania, southeast Pennsylvania, and started hunting about 30 years ago. Well, with a license, I started hunting about 30 years. Of course, when you're a kid and you've got a bow in your hands and you're running around the yard, you're not hesitating to sling a few arrows at rabbits and things like that. Not proud of those days, but it happened. But anyway, so yeah, about 30 years I've been whitetail hunting with a bow, and I would say in 1990, I think it was, I saw my first hunting video, which was back in the VHS days. My neighbor, who was a buddy of mine, he got one as a gift, and we watched that thing like every day throughout the summer. And I mean, probably after my first couple times watching it, I was like, that is what I want to do with my life, and went off to college for an environmental degree at Penn State, and saved up money, got a video camera, and started begging everybody I knew to help me video hunts. And so I started filming hunts in 1995 with the aspiration of being a professional bow hunter. Yeah, exactly. So, and then I had my life took a massive turn in what year was that? 96, I think. So I had been filming hunts for a year. I really actually, the whole first year, we only got one hunt on film, and it was a spike. And I mean, I'm sitting in the room with all my antlers right now, and I'm just looking over at it. And I gotta be honest with you, people, even I get excited about a big rack, but one of the happiest hunts I've ever had in my whole life, was that deer. Because we worked so hard to try to get a deer on video back then, and I was driving like 3 hours to get to my friend's house who would help me, and then we would drive 2 hours from there to his spot where he would go hunting. And so it was exerting, being a student in college and doing all that driving on the weekends just to try to get a deer on video. So we accomplished that, but then the year after that, or I guess around that time, I had sort of what I call my God moment, if you will. I sort of had God step in and say, "Hey, buddy, you've got to change the way you're living." And I was a decent guy, but I made some mistakes that I knew, you should not do. And so I started to try to straighten my life out, and started going to church again, and that just was like a huge, like I found happiness, like. And if you haven't ever experienced that, you might be like, what? And I was actually like that at first. Like, I'm going to church and I'm singing these songs and praying, and it's like I'm walking out super happy. And so, anyway, what that meant was this dream of being a professional hunter kind of just stepped aside for a minute. And I was like, God, what do you want me to do? Whatever you want, that's what I want, because this is making me happy. And being a Catholic, my people around me were like, "Oh, this means you're supposed to be a priest. This is definitely what you're supposed to do." And I went to Catholic school from kindergarten through 12th grade, and I had nuns and priests teaching me all along the way, and I never once like felt called to that. But then I got afraid, like, did I miss something? Oh my goodness, So I eventually put everything aside, graduated from college, and joined a religious order, basically of monks, for a couple years. And Joe, this is where things got interesting, because I gave up everything to follow God. There's
Yeah.
like that one passage in the Bible where there's this rich young man who, he approaches Jesus and he's like, "What must I do to have eternal life?" And Jesus is like, "Hey, just keep the commandments." And he's like, "Oh, I do all that. What else must I do?" And Jesus is like, "Oh, you seek to be perfect then." He said, "Go sell all that you own and give it to the poor, then come follow me." And the rich young man went away sad because he had many possessions, and he just couldn't give them up. And I was like, well, I don't want to be that guy, so I literally gave up everything, and I was like, all right, Lord, I'm following you. And so here I am in this religious order, and I still didn't feel called to it, but I was trying to like make myself do it, because I thought, well, this is how you live for God. And while I was there, amongst other things, I actually legitimately felt like God was saying to me, "I want you to make hunting videos." And I never would have guessed that God would have, said to anybody, "I want you to make hunting videos." But bottom line is, I felt like it was part of what He wanted me to do with my life, and whatever that means. So, at that time, I was like, well, how can I do it for God? And so, I came home from the religious order, worked, taught, high school religion and stuff like that. And I couldn't find anybody to help me with the hunting videos. So I was like, I'm just going to give up on this for now. I'm going to focus on becoming the best hunter I can be. And if anything ever works out where I could find somebody to help me make hunting videos, well, then I'll start doing it again. And so for years, I just, was really put my nose to the grind and was working hard to be a really good hunter. And I was hunting, you know, mountain deer on public land in the middle of Pennsylvania, and it's difficult hunting. I mean, there's not a lot of deer per square mile where I was living at that time or even now. And it means you have to push yourself and push yourself to develop a skill set that will enable you to overcome all those odds and still be successful in harvesting deer. And so, I pushed and pushed and pushed to become a better hunter, and I really was coming along pretty well. And then in 2009, I believe that's when it was. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to break out the video camera again, and I'm going to point it in a direction. Excuse me, the direction I think the deer are going to go. And if it walks into my camera angle, I'll shoot. And if not, who cares? I won't get it on video. And so, at this point, I had a real junky camera, but it had a flip out screen, which before that, back in the 90s, when I first started filming, you didn't have a flip out screen. And so when I actually did try to film myself for a couple years with a camera that had no flip out screen. And so I would just point the camera generally where I thought it was capturing the video footage I needed, and would take a shot. And I did get deer on video that way, but it was so hard. And it was,
I can only
I mean,
imagine how
yeah.
difficult that
Oh my
was.
goodness. And back then, Joe, they didn't have video camera arms that strapped to the tree. You should see some of the MacGyver rigs I rigged up on my tree stands. Like I took apart tripods, like the bar part that, at the top of the tripod that slides up and down,
Hmm.
vertically. I would detach those off of tripods and make these mounting brackets, and I would slide that down into this mounting bracket that I had bolted to my tree stand and everything. So if you're sitting in your tree stand, my video camera was about a foot off the platform out in front of me, and I was just whipping around like 180 degrees this way or that way, just trying to point it at deer. And I'm bending at my knees to reach down to do it. I mean, very primitive, as far as trying to, but there was a passion and a desire there to do it. And so I did. I did what I needed to do to try to get there. And so anyway, fast forward again to 2009. Here I am. I'm on a hunt. It was actually a suburban hunt at my in-laws. They're like, I had just gotten married like 2 years before, and they had always bugged me, please come shoot some deer. They just eat everything. And so I set up, behind their house, and I just pointed the video camera out into the yard, because there's not too many options. They either walk into the yard or they don't. And if they walk into the yard, you're going to get a shot usually. So anyway, I shoot a deer on video, and I'm like, you know what? I think I can do it. It worked out, and so I kept trying. And that year, I became the first person, actually, as far as I know, and I tried to verify this, but as far as I've been able to research, I became the first person in history to self-film himself harvesting a Pennsylvania black bear with a bow. At that time, it was only the second year that they had a bow hunting season for bear. And unlike New York, where you're at, Joe, it was 2 days out of the year you could hunt for bear with a bow. 2 days,
Wow.
not allowed to bait, and I harvested one, and that was an accomplishment. But it really was a mercy of God, just a blessing. So I harvested a bear, and I got a deer, a buck. I shot a 6-pointer on public land that year with the video camera, and so I was like, you know what, I can do it. I can do it. And so I just started. And the funny thing is, like, I live a somewhat sheltered life. Like, it wasn't until like last year that we could even get TV at our house. Like, we don't get TV reception. We're at the bottom of this big mountain, and the signal just doesn't reach the house. And I always refused to pay to have cable, so I just never had TV. So I never saw any of the hunting shows. I didn't know what anybody else was doing. I didn't like YouTube's where I'm at right now, and I'll mention that again later. But um, at that time, I didn't really know much about YouTube. I didn't watch YouTube. Bottom line is, I didn't watch any hunting videos. I didn't know what anybody was doing out there. And so I didn't realize there are other people out there who were self-filming themselves, but I didn't know that. And I just thought, man, this is so ridiculously hard. And I just kept chipping away at it, because like when you are self-filmed hunter, you have to be such a more advanced animal in a sense. Like, there are so many more things that you need to be able to do to not just get a deer, but get it on film and film yourself doing it. I mean, there's just so much more that you're taking on. And so I kind of started to develop that skill set, if you want to call it that. And at that time as well, now getting back to the whole God thing, I still wanted to live my life for God. And I was like, again, being a Catholic, I wanted to do something for the church, not feeling called to the priesthood. And so I was trying to like do things. I've written a couple Catholic books, and people are like, oh, these are great. But when I would give them to like bishops and say, hey, can I come talk to the people in your diocese and try to inspire them to more fervently live their faith, they would ignore me. And it was like all these closed doors all the time. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm trying to help. There's a need for it, and they're not even giving me the chance. And so I kind of started a religious YouTube channel, and I started to just put some videos up there. And then just, what the heck, I'll just make a archery video. And I made a little archery video standing in my backyard, and I uploaded that to YouTube. And before I knew it, like, my religious channel had like 200,000 views. And then I blinked my eyes, and my Sean's Outdoor Adventures thing that was sort of like a whatever, it had like 500,000 views on the channel. I'm like, what is happening here? And then before I knew it, I was actually saying a prayer. I was like, God, do you want me to just maybe focus more on the Sean's Outdoor Adventures thing rather than try to, because these people in the church are just not giving me a chance here. And so that's next day, I got a email from a Catholic bishop saying he wanted to learn archery. So he found my archery video that very first one I ever uploaded, basically. And then he found out I wrote a hunting book, and he read that. And in that, I mentioned that I'm Catholic in the book. And so, so now he's emailing me saying, I think you're doing a great job, and I just want to encourage you to keep going. So the funny thing is, out of all those years, I had sent letters and books to bishops, and they wouldn't even respond to me. Here's a bishop writing to me because of Sean's Outdoor Adventures, and it was as if God was saying, "Yep, this is what I want you to work on." So, so I've kind of continued to do that, and I mean, I'm at 30,500 subscribers and getting close to 5 million views on the channel. But in the context of YouTube, it's really not that much. There's people out there that are so far beyond that, and it doesn't really, it's still like infantile in a certain sense. It's I'm just getting off the ground. I think in my mind, my goal right now is to hit 100,000 subscribers, and then I'll feel as though I've gotten somewhere with it. But it's going well. I mean, I've recently had for those of you who are listening and maybe never heard of me before, I actually got picked to be on a show by Drury Outdoors this year. And then right at that same time, Bowtech asked me if I would do a weekly live show for them. And so I was like, oh, okay. So there's some positive things happening. And the reason why Bowtech even, I think, asked me that is I actually reached out to them because I do compound bow reviews and people seem to really like them. And the bow that I honestly thought was the best bow of the year was the Bowtech Range 6. I mean, I shot a lot of bows and that one just stood out to me. It has that cam shift technology. You can have like a soft draw curve, or you can have a more radical draw curve and a faster bow. I mean, there was a lot of things going on with it that I just thought was admirable. So anyway, I thought I'm running this map reading challenge, which we were going to talk about, and I'll just kind of get into it a little bit here. And I've got 12 guys that are, at that time it was two teams thought they were competing for pride, like, who's going to win. But I wanted to sweeten the pot. I wanted to give these guys something to really shoot for. So I thought, let me see if I can get a flagship compound bow as like a grand prize. And I thought, well, it only makes sense for me to ask Bowtech because, I honestly thought that was the best bow of the year. So why not start with them? Well, no, actually, I actually asked Expedition first because I had a good contact there. And the guy normally got back to me really quickly, and he's always good to work with and stuff. So I said, hey, I'm doing this challenge hunt. I'd love to get a compound bow as the grand prize. Would you guys be interested in putting up a bow for that? And they never got back to me. I'm like, all right, whatever. And then that's when I was like, well, I really should be reaching out to Bowtech first anyway, because that was the bow I thought was, the bow of the year. So I called Bowtech, and I was actually in Maine. I'm working on a master's degree right now, and there was like a week-long intensive course up there. So in the evenings, when I was supposed to be doing my homework, I decided to do a little Sean's Outdoor Adventures work. Sorry. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to call Bowtech right now, and I'm going to ask them to put up a bow for these guys. So I call, and I get the receptionist, and I explain what I want to do. And she's like, okay, well, let me patch you through to so-and-so, but you'll probably have to leave a voicemail because she's not here. I think she's gone for the day. I get patched through, and the person actually answered, which was, I thought, well, this is a good thing because this person's not even supposed to be there. So maybe God's got a hand here in helping this thing along. And I explained the whole thing to her, and she kind of gave me the impression like, yeah, right, buddy, that sounds great, but no, I don't think you're going to get that, but that was just the way she was, wording a few things. She's like, well, I don't actually handle that, but I'll put you through, or she said, send me an email with a write-up of what you're talking about, and I'll send it to the guy in charge of that. And if you don't hear anything in like a couple weeks, then, touch base with me and I'll follow up on it. which to me means like, yeah, you're probably not going to get any kind of response, And the next day, I had a voicemail. I was in class. I got a voicemail from this guy from Bowtech asking me to do a weekly live show for them. So I called him back during my lunch break, and he's all excited. He wants me to do this live show, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. I'll think about it. But how about this bow for these guys? That's why I was calling him initially. But he just kept going on about the live show, and I said, well, listen, I just got asked by Drury Outdoors to, be on their show, which all I was going to do was submit 2 hunts. Two out of all of my hunts out of the year, I was going to give them 2, and they were going to buy them and they would own them. I couldn't do anything else with them, and I had to use PSC. That's their sponsor. I had to use that in the shows, and so the guy from Bowtech is like, "That's fine, no problem. I just, I think you'd be great for this. I'd love to have you as one of our content providers, whatever." And so anyway, I said, well, let's see what happens. It kind of bounced around for a couple weeks, and then I ultimately agreed to do it, and I started doing live shows for them. And then that's when Jory, not at that point, because I told everybody what was going on. I told Jory I was doing the live show. I mean, I don't know if they missed it or something, because a month or two later, the one guy from Jory was like, "Oh, I just saw on your Facebook page that you're giving away a Bowtech," and I'm like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Well, I don't know that that's going to go over real well with PSE." And I kind of explained the situation. I mean, my map reading challenge. So coming full circle, Bowtech was like, when they first asked me to do the show for them, they're like, "What are your goals?" I'm like, I really want to hit 100,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel right now. I'm trying to. That's the direction I want to go right now. I want to build this thing into a career, really. And they're like, "Well, we're going to help you do that. We'll put some marketing dollars behind this. We'll try to help you build your channel." I'm like, "Hey, that's great. That's what I need." And they're going to give me a Bowtech Range 6 for the top prize for the guys competing on the map reading challenge, and they're going to give away a Bowtech Range 6 to one of my fans and one of the viewers. So this, it was starting to grow into something cool here. And so I was, putting that type of stuff on my Facebook page. And anyway, Jory saw that. They got a little bit upset, I guess. And I said, well, the map reading challenge giveaway, the fan is going to win the Bowtech in November. We're giving that away right before Thanksgiving. And whoever wins it for the map reading challenge, that they're going to get theirs in February. The Jory thing didn't even finish filming till March, and it's going to air next year. I said, I don't see why there's a problem. But anyway, they decided, since I'm doing this project with Bowtech, that they just dropped me from the production, which actually was a blessing. And because through it all, I realized, like, I mean, Drury Outdoors are great people, and I was happy that they were going to give me that opportunity for some exposure. But I mean, their YouTube channel, I'm at 30,000 subscribers. They're at 38,000. So it's not like they're really bringing many eyes to YouTube. I mean, these guys have been on TV and in videos for a long time, and they've got tons and tons of marketing dollars in what they're doing. And if they're only at the same size I am, I don't have any marketing dollars. I don't do anything to promote my YouTube channels. It's the only reason why my YouTube channel is what it is because people have found my videos and liked them and subscribed. And that's, I mean, I never promoted it at all. It's just all on its own. So, in that respect, it also would have cost me some money to be on their show, because I'm spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars in out-of-state licenses, and they don't really hardly pay anything for the size of bucks that I would be probably shooting. So, and then it just kind of made everything real clear. Like, this opportunity with Bowtech is good. They're kind of trying to help me with my channel. I got another project in the wing right now that I pitched it to them, and they're all for it. I want to do a new series for beginners of archery, but part of it, I want to do a giveaway, a bow giveaway there for like a Diamond SB1, a Diamond Edge SB1. It's a very versatile bow. For those who haven't heard of it, check it out, because it can go from, like, I forget it, something like as low as 15-pound pull all the way up to 70 or something like that. And like really tiny draw length. And I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but it's like 15-inch draw length all the way out to 30. It's just super versatile. So you could like give it to a kid, like a 10-year-old kid, and he could literally shoot that bow till he's just about 20, if he wanted to.
Yeah, like one of
Um,
those grow with you type bows.
exactly.
Hmm.
So I said, hey, can we do a giveaway of one of those with this series? And so basically, I'm at 30,000 subscribers. I said, let's give a bow away when I hit 50, and then ask the viewers to say, hey, if you want to help speed this along and get the bow, giveaway, help me reach 50,
Hmm.
and the people from Bowtech were like, yeah, that sounds great. We'd love that. And they want to use the video series on their websites as well and stuff like that. So some good stuff going there. But let me give you a little more detail about the map reading challenge and how that all got started, if that's okay, Joe.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Uh,
I definitely want to. Let's talk about how the MRC came to be. Um,
yeah.
you,
So, the state of New York had a lot to play with the development of the map reading challenge. So, being that I've been passionate about making hunting videos and trying to make that a living in a certain sense, um, Pennsylvania is a $1 state. No matter what, you only get $1. And that's not much for footage for a year. So I started to look at other states around me, and I started with New York. I bought an out-of-state license for New York, and as you know, Joe, you get a either sex tag, which you can shoot a buck with an archery season,
yep.
but then you also get a buck tag that you can use in gun season, which essentially is $2
Yep.
in a year. And although they've changed it now, when I originally started hunting in New York, which was about 2010, um, there was about a 4-day period you could use a leftover tag from the previous year in the northern zone.
Hmm.
And so a buck tag was like if you had a leftover buck tag from the previous year, you could go up to the northern zone and still use it in those first 4 days of the season.
No kidding.
And so I started to look at where could I get to in the northern zone, because my first year up there, I'm hunting public land. It's a long drive, not much time to get up scouting before the season, not many times up during the season, and I only encountered a couple spikes like the first year. I didn't shoot any of them, obviously, and so I had both buck tags left over from the previous year. I'm like, let me try to use them, because if I can use one and then I get the license for the new hunting year, then that's the potential of getting more bucks in one year for my videos. So I drove to the northern zone and scouted out a spot one time. And before I went, I started looking at aerial photos and topo maps. And I started to look at them and say, where can I give myself an advantage on looking at these maps? And I was looking, I mean, we're talking about the Adirondacks, which is vast. I called it the Green Blob. If you look on an aerial photo of New York, there's this dark green blob and is a big circle in the northern zone of New York because it's all forest. It's not, there's no crop fields, there's no development. It's just all, it's a big green blob in an aerial photo. And so I just drove myself up to the Green Blob, and I had picked out some spots on the map. One of the things I did to narrow it down is I looked for water bodies, and I looked for pinch points between the two where the deer could travel between like two lakes. And there's a hill on one side and a hill on the other. And not to say that the deer are going to move from one side to the other, but if they are, the only way they're going to get to the other one is through this pinch point. And so I drove up to New York, and I went and hiked all the way out to these pinch points, and at that time I was operating with a GPS that I had bought right when I came home from the religious order, which was 2001. And it didn't have any topo maps in it. I was just going to use it to help me, locate a pin, a waypoint. When I was there, I was going to put in a waypoint and then help me find it when I come back. And it did not get any reception at all in the woods. So that was a disaster. There's no cell phone service up there. And so good thing for me, I printed out the maps, the topos and aerials before I went up. And it was very tough. My car broke down, so I walked 3 miles to get someone to jump my car for me. Turns out the guy was like a ranger, I think you guys call him in New York.
Yep.
And when I showed him on the map what I was doing, the guy's jaw dropped because he was a trapper too, and he used to float this stream, from one lake to the other. And the pinch point that I had noted as my hot spot, he said there is a beat, and I mean beat trail right there, and it's the only one like it in that whole stretch. And so the dude was just totally impressed with what I did, but here's somebody coming from 4 hours, 5 hours away, and putting a waypoint in a spot that is like the best spot in the area. And I ended up going back up to hunt it for like one day in that 4 day window, and it was just pouring rain, and it was real hot, and it was like everything that could go wrong did go wrong, kind of a thing. So I didn't have any success. And but that was the start of the map reading challenge. And at that time I called it the 4 hour challenge. I was like, let's create a challenge where you have to drive at least 4 hours away from your house. You get to scout at one time, like for 4 hours, and then you have to come back like a month later and try to hunt it in a day or two and score on a deer. And so that was the early development of it. And then as the years progressed, I said, let's just call it the map reading challenge, because you're studying maps. That's what you're doing. And I wanted more people to be able to do it, because it's hard to drive 4 or 5 hours or more to a hunting spot. And not everybody can find time to do that. And New York changed that ruling, I believe. And so I stopped going all the way up there. But then I was like, well, I still want to hunt New York. And the closest place to me is like 2.5 hours. So I was doing it there. And so it turned into what I call the map reading challenge, where you're studying maps, trying to pick out the spots that you think will put deer at those spots. And then you go there, scout it one time, and you come back and hunt it. And then I developed a scoring system so you could kind of rate yourself. Well, the scoring system is like, 20 yards and less of a shot is a higher score. If the deer's out at 35 yards, you get a lower score, because you're pushing yourself to be a supreme hunter, like the best you could possibly be. And you want that 20 yards or less shot with a bow. And so that's why you get a higher score. And then a heart and lung hit is going to give you a higher score than a liver hit, or a gut hit, or anything else. So I created a scoring system. And then I was constantly getting asked by people to take them hunting, or guide them, or teach them how to read maps, or read maps for them and tell them where to go hunting. And so I was like, my YouTube channel at that time was at around 10,000 subscribers. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just do an application process, and I'm going to start taking my fans out on hunts, on map reading challenges. So in 2015, I took some applications and I picked some people, and I took them out on my first map reading challenge as a group, and it was sort of like a mentoring thing. Like, we went there, we met up, I gave them all areas that would be their designated area. And I let them read the maps first and pick out spots that they think would be good. And then I went into each one of their spots, and I'm like, I would do this, 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 and this. And they were all like, oh my gosh, you just blew my mind. And so I just like totally laid it out there how I would approach it. And it's basically me mentoring them and now they have my insight. And then they went off and hunted each in their areas, and everyone got a shot. I mean, the two guys got doe, the one guy missed a big buck and gut shot another one that we couldn't find, unfortunately. But he had even gotten a deer at that point, so he was new to hunting. And then the next year, after that, I did two groups. And Joe, you were actually in the New York group.
Yep.
So I ran a group in New York and a group in Maryland, and there was like this friendly competition that spurred up. Like, the Maryland guys wanted to get a higher score than the New York guys, and vice versa once the whole thing came out. And I said, well, it's got to be buck only, because the number of deer per square mile in Maryland where we were hunting was higher than where I was taking a New York group. So I wanted to try to equalize it a little bit, because it's a lot easier to just shoot a doe in the Maryland spot. So I said it has to be a buck for it to count. And one guy in the Maryland hunt got a doe, and that was it. And nobody got a deer in the New York hunt. And it was a tough hunt. We were rained out pretty hard in the New York hunt. And so I said, all right, the next year it's going to be an epic showdown. It's going to be New York versus Maryland in Pennsylvania, all on the same ground. Everything goes. A doe counts because we're all hunting the same area. And then, all that other stuff was growing in the background with Bowtech, as well as other companies like XOP Tree Stands reached out to me and asked me if I would review their stands. I said, sure. And by the way, I'm doing this big challenge hunt. You want to give me some stands as grand prize? For the team that wins, I want a stand for each guy. I got 4 teams of 3. So they obliged. They sent me 3 tree stands for grand prizes for the guys. And then I went back to them and I said, hey, listen, Bowtech is giving a range 6 to a fan, to a viewer. They can win for watching and getting involved with the map reading challenge. Can you do that? Because I think that's an awesome thing. And they said, they sat on it for a few weeks, but eventually they're like, yeah, we'll give you another stand to give to the fans. So then I got a stand, XOP Air Raid Hang On Tree Stand to give away to a fan. And so basically the way it's going to roll out, the map reading challenge, and I'm a businessman too, and I'm kind of a little savvy with the way I do things. And I don't normally say that out loud because, one, I don't like to talk that way, but also I let other people decide that if they want. But that's the reality. And I asked the question, like, how can I not only help these people, like, I take people out, I show them, I mentor them or whatever, but how can I also help it grow my channel? And so I incorporated into the scoring for this year, each guy out of the 12 guys is going to get an episode on my channel of them doing their scouting trip and an episode of their actual hunt. And part of their overall score to win the grand prizes is by how many views their videos get. And the point of that is to inspire the guy to go around to his friends and friends of his friends and say, hey guys, watch my video and share it around and help me win these prizes, And so it's going to be partly their hunt score and partly their views. And that's going to help my channel while I'm also helping these guys have a great time and also do some learning in the process. Not everybody needs mentoring at this point. There's a lot of people that are pretty advanced on their own, but actually 2 of the groups that I have running this year are essentially mentored groups. Like I did a group hunt already in Maryland, and those guys were really new to 2 of those guys were super new to the map reading. One guy has been doing it for a couple years ever since, because he's been watching my YouTube channel for years, and he's been kind of like challenging himself to do his own map reading challenges. So he had some experience. The other 2 guys did not. And so I took them out scouting. I showed them how to read maps. And then I had a mentored group that's going to join the Pennsylvania hunt. And I took those guys out for a whole day before the rest of the crews came. And I was teaching them how to scout, how to read maps. And so now all 4 teams are competing for the prizes. And, the way the fans win the Bowtech, I'm sure there's people, if people are listening still, I don't know if I'm boring or not, but if you're still listening, the way you can win a Bowtech is Bowtech is setting up a website or web page on their website for the map reading challenge. And we're also going to embed the scoring thing or the voting thing on my website. So people can go to Sean'sOutdoorAdventures.com, and I spell my name SEAN. It's the Gaelic version. So Sean'sOutdoorAdventures.com. If you go to my website, there's a page called the Map Reading Challenge. And there's going to be a tab you can click on to vote for these guys. And when you vote for one of these guys, your name goes into the lottery through Bowtech for the drawing. So that's all going to be integrated to their server. And for me, doing the tree stand giveaway, that's a little bit of a separate entity because XOP gave me the stand so that I could give it out. So I need to manage that, and it's going to be on a separate reel, if you want to call it that. So I set up a newsletter this year, and I thought, okay, let's just use that. So all you have to do is subscribe to the newsletter, which you can do on any page of my website. And when I get ready to do the drawing, I'm going to send out like a sign-up sheet, more or less, to the people on my newsletter. That way I can get the address of the person, whoever wins. So they'll just sign up, put in their address, their shipping address, for like a UPS shipment. And then I'm going to draw it out of I'm basically going to do a drawing out of that. I'll probably do a random number generator because there's, I think my newsletter is up to about 1,000 people are on there now. So, that's a pretty big number. I'm not going to, put 1,000 names in a hat and draw one out. I'm going to just,
Yeah.
put them all on a spreadsheet and have each person numbered and then just pull out a number, do one of them online random number generators. And I'd like to do it live. I think we're going to do the Bowtech drawing live. That's, like I said, going to be right before Thanksgiving. Probably do it on one of my live shows. I do them every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And that goes out on my Sean's Outdoor Adventures YouTube channel, but it also goes out on everything Bowtech, like all their web pages, their Facebook pages, and that includes Diamond, Excalibur. I mean, so it's getting blasted out all over the place on the internet on Wednesday nights.
Do you know
If anybody,
know what your
what's that?
topic is for this week?
This week I'm going to talk about somebody emailed me asking me how to balance hunting and family life, because he's also got like 3 or 4 kids and he's struggling with that idea. So, and another person asked me like how to do scouting in season, because he's with work, he can't really scout preseason. And so I'm going to incorporate the two, and that really does encompass a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there, they don't have much time to get out scouting, and they don't have much time to get out hunting because of family life and stuff. So I'm going to talk about how to balance that a little bit, how I balance it, and also like how you can still try to give yourself the best advantage possible during the season with planning out scouting trips within hunts and stuff like that. So that's going to be kind of the topic for this week.
And when are
And
those when is those live shows again?
yeah, it's 6 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday evenings.
Okay.
And I've been running them for probably getting close to 2 months now, month and a half or so, every Wednesday night. And now all of the past episodes are on my channel. I started off with preseason hunting strategies, pre-rut hunting strategies, rut hunting strategies, how the moon and the sun impacts deer movement with like how it impacts the rut. I did an episode on the wind and thermals and how to play those, especially in hilly terrain. So if you have New York listeners, you definitely want to listen or go check that one out. And so those are some of the topics I've covered already. And I did one on calling, just because I get so many questions on calling deer, especially from people that are kind of new to hunting. So I did a whole episode on that. So I have those in a playlist on pretty much my YouTube channel is broken up into playlists, so I have like archery tips and bow tuning all in one playlist. I have how to hunt whitetail deer. It's a whole series of videos. There's probably 30 videos in that, where I have hunts with deer, harvests, and a couple tips on what helped me be successful. And that's, people can take those tips and apply them in their own hunts and stuff. And all kinds of playlists. So I got it all kind of organized in that way. How-to videos, like a whole playlist of just how-to. I just started a new playlist yesterday on tree stands, because I've actually done a lot of tree stand modification, climbing stick modification, climbing stick videos, all that kind of stuff. I just did a new climbing stick video the other day with XOP gave me an air raid hang on tree stand and a set of climbing sticks. So I actually used it on a hunt in Maryland over the weekend. And I'm always looking for better ways to use everything that I'm using. And, I really feel like God has blessed me with really positive insights on a lot of stuff. And when I was at the base of the tree that I had to get up in, it was a huge oak tree. And I mean, the straps were all the way maxed out as far as they could go. And I looked up this tree and I said, how can I best do this? And so immediately several ideas came to me that were very useful that I had never done before or even thought of before. And so I made a video on it, and I just posted it this morning, and I've already had it's already last time I looked, it was over 600 views since this morning. And I've had so many people comment saying, wow, these are some really great tips. I'm going to really use these. So I decided to make a whole playlist for just the tree stand stuff, because now I seem to have quite a few videos on climbing tree stands and hang on tree stands, and I have actually more that I want to make. So I have a new playlist on that, and just all kinds of playlists. I have fishing on there too. I have some trout fishing instructional videos that are huge hits. I mean, the one's got like 200 plus thousand views on it, and people are just always writing to me saying, "Oh man, this has helped me so much." So, I mean, that's my channel is kind of designed toward trying to teach people insights into fishing and hunting, mostly deer hunting, but I also do some fishing and stuff. And just trying to teach people that are new or give some tips and ideas to people who are experienced and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, and that's where I found you here a number of years ago. Was stumbled across your channel when I had kind of gotten into archery and watched a bunch of your videos, and then you and I started talking, and here we are
Yep.
now.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, I would recommend anybody who hasn't heard from you or of you to definitely go to your Sean's Outdoors um, YouTube page and check out. There's so much content on there. It takes
Yeah.
a lot of time to go through.
Yeah, I think I'm up to around three. I got about 300 videos or so. I've got a lot of videos, and it's funny because the other day I was just clicking on it I clicked on my YouTube channel to try to look at it as if I was a new visitor, just first time coming to it, and I clicked on the videos tab, and I scrolled down, and it basically stopped after like the past 2 years, and I've had it up for 7 years now.
Oh
So
wow.
there's like over 100 videos that if you click on just the videos tab, you can't even access anymore, apparently. So I was thinking of maybe making playlists of like, by year for those early years so
Hmm.
that people could still see those. Because there's a lot of, I mean, my one video that really put me on the map, my archery tips video, it's at like over 700,000 views on it now. But it's been up for 7 years, and it's been up for a while now. But it's still that's a lot of views,
Yeah.
for just a. I mean, it's if you really get to looking in the archery or hunting YouTube channels, it's actually really hard to be very successful with that. I mean, like I mentioned Joy Outdoors or earlier in this thing, they're at like 38,000 subscribers. I'm at 30. I'm right there with these huge names in the industry. And then there are Midwest whitetails. I think a lot of people were telling me, "Oh, you got to check them out." Well, I actually have more subscribers than they do. I checked them out last night, and they're like a TV show on TV, and big time. They probably have like, professional editors on staff that really, they know way more than I do as far as making it look like a TV show. I'm just a do-it-yourselfer guy who has no money really. I'm a stay-at-home dad of 4 kids. My oldest kid is 5 years old, and I do the best I can with the time. I don't have much time, but I put together videos, and actually the map reading challenge videos have started. All I have about 7 videos up in the series, but we haven't gotten to the ones that count toward the guys' scores yet. Those are going to start real soon, though.
Yeah,
I
that's
have
what I was
made,
just going to ask you. Is it
yeah,
when can people expect to be able to go on and start voting?
yeah. The voting should start any day now. Now, I talked to my rep guy that I deal with from Bowtech last Wednesday, I think it was, and I gave them all the stuff on the guys. So I gave them your picture, Joe, and some details on you, as well as all the other guys, and they're making like a bio page on web page. And when that is done, the voting is supposed to be open, and he was hoping to have it done by Friday. But I'm guessing they had some setbacks, and because there's like programming that they need to do for the voting process, and because the people who are watching, they're setting it up so you can vote once a day. So
Oh
you can
wow.
guys, all of you who are listening and are fans of Joe, you need to help him out. If you want to help him win the brand new bow, you can vote once a day through the Bowtech thing. I think that's going to help. But I think where it's really the numbers are really going to stack up is if you help share Joe's videos around, like his scout trip and his hunting video. Because if you think of it, let's say you have 100. Let's just make up a couple numbers. You have 100 friends on Facebook, and you reach out to them and say, "Hey, I'm trying to help my friend Joe win this challenge, and part of his score is going to come from how many views he gets on this video." And if you have 100 people who are going to sit and watch it, that day, and then also share it with their 100 friends. I mean, there's 100 people, 100 views right there. You can vote once that day for, on the Facebook page, but you may have just helped Joe get 100 views. You know what I mean? And so that's where I think the big numbers are going to add up, is people sharing that stuff around in their social media. And but all that stuff is going to start probably within a week, I would think. The individual scout videos are going to start within a week, I believe. And then rolling, it's going to be 12 consecutive days. We're going to have one guy each day for 12 days. And as soon as the 12 days are done, we're rolling into the hunts. I mean, the hunts are going to start rolling out. So, and the way the hunts are going to roll out, we have 4 teams. The team with the highest score after the hunt is over, their hunts are going to roll the first week. And there's going to be 1 team per week. And so the team with the lowest overall score, they're going to really have some ground to make up, because by the time they air, that's the 4th week after the first week's been up, and so they'll be up in the thousands of views when these guys are just hitting 0, and they're, they're going to have more ground to make up because their scores were lower. But you have to reward people for successful hunting. That's what this is about. We're trying to push ourselves to be better and to be the best that we can be. And so that's part of the incentive. Is I have found, like, I actually wasn't a very competitive person. I wasn't originally intending for the map reading challenge I thought it was just going to be people challenging themselves. But when you get down to it, having someone else pushing you who's also good, it actually does help you be better. Like, if it's just me trying to push myself, it's like, yeah, I did pretty good this year on the map reading challenge. I beat my score from some years, but not others. But if I'm trying to, really compete with somebody who's good and is pushing me, it's fun, and it does make me buckle down and push myself harder. And so it's a good thing. The point of it all is to help us be better than we were at hunting before. And all these things are just little ways to incentivize us to push ourselves, And sometimes we need incentive, we need to be pushed, and that's what this is really all about. Let's push ourselves to be the best hunters we can be. That's the period at the end of the sentence.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better. And I was going to give myself a shameless plug, but since you did it already for me, I guess I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, you come on, everyone listening to Joe's podcast, you got to hook the brother up here.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Help him out. Everyone's going to need all the help they can get, because it's going to be, there are some competitive people in this. Joe, I don't know. Are you a competitive guy or what?
I am definitely competitive.
Okay.
Maybe not so much when it comes to hunting. Maybe the map reading challenge has changed me a little bit, but I'm competitive in nature as it is. So
okay.
And being, this is my multiple years in a map reading challenge, and kind of knowing what to expect and what other teams are out there and what my competition's looking like. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be cool. I'm not sure exactly when his episode's going to air, but I did a podcast with Corey.
Okay.
And so his is going to be coming out at some point, probably as a bonus episode as we roll closer to the MRC. And
Nice.
It's a pretty good one. We reminisce a lot about last year and the highs and lows of that, and kind of what we expect going into this year. So
and your listeners can go on the channel. There are videos up right now from the last year's map reading challenge. It's in a playlist called Map Reading Challenge 2016. So if you want to see Joe, I changed the format for this year to accommodate for the way we're doing this challenge. But last year I basically did one or two videos from the scout trip, and then one video. I ended up doing just one video for the whole hunt because none of us shot anything. Yeah. So we just kind of rolled it all into one. But even last year, I actually wanted to do an episode for each guy. But since we didn't have a whole lot of footage that was really appealing enough for an individual episode, I just rolled it all into one. And but now that there's this big challenge involved, it kind of creates more curiosity. Even if someone doesn't score on something, you want to see what happened. You want to see what they did and what they learned from it. So it kind of puts everything on a new playing field for this year. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really, really looking forward to this. It's coming. We're actually going to do the hunt in a few weeks, so we haven't even done that yet. And it is just a lot of great people involved. I'm hoping we get some good weather this year. But
I hope so. Oh my goodness.
we're a little bit better set up for it if we have rain though.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
so anyway, Joe, what are your thoughts going into this year? Are you excited or what?
Oh man, I am so stoked, and it's hard to believe how close we are to it, and that
Yeah.
it's right around the corner.
How did you feel after the scout? Did you feel fairly confident, or were you a little on edge? Because I know you had that work thing. You missed a lot of the first day. I mean,
Yeah, so I was put. I mean, I don't want to say I was at a disadvantage, but I
you
definitely
were. Yeah,
a
you were.
bit. Yeah, I mean, so I definitely did not feel awesome coming out of it because of the amount of
Right.
ground that I did not get to look at, but
Right.
um, I still came out with some good spots. I think the deer density is a little bit higher there compared to
Yeah.
what I'm used to seeing.
That's what it
Um,
seemed.
uh, Everybody seemed to see deer. I guess we'll see when we go back down there what things are
Yeah.
looking like. I've said and I've told everybody so far that's asked me about it. Um, the biggest challenge I see at this point is going to be access and getting
Right.
into spots quietly because
Yeah.
how thick that understory is.
Right.
So I think that's going to be interesting, but
Yeah.
I think it's going to be cool. I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to it.
Sometimes when I have those kinds of issues, I get in there at 3 or 4 in the morning and just wait it out because it just gives you need like the deer that are moving early morning. You need to give them a nice long time to. You need to either get in there before they're moving or give them a nice long time to cool down after you've moved through. And so, I mean, there are plenty of years where I literally went and got my stand at 3:30 or 4 in the morning,
Yep.
like all set up and ready to go by 4 in the morning. And that's what you had to do in order to, still have success in the morning. If you went in too late, if you got to your stand like a half hour before daylight, the deer were already there and you pushed them all out.
Yeah.
So that's a little tip. But I'll also say this, Joe, take it for what it's worth. I've been doing map reading challenges for years now, and what seems to end up happening all the time for me is while I'm actually at the map reading challenge, a lot of my spots that I had previously scouted and thought about like hunting, um, I just abandon for various reasons, and I just kind of do day scouts during the challenge. Like I'll get down from the tree stand in the morning, and I'll exit a different way than I came in to scout on the way, and I'll end up, doing a lot of sits in areas that I just came across in those situations or blind map reading challenges. Because another thing too is, and I've actually thought about making an adjustment to future map reading challenges, like having 4 hours or one day to scout. It is so minimal, and there's
Yeah.
just so much ground that you don't get to cover. That when you study the maps even more, you're like, you know what? This looks like an area that would set up better for a north wind, and I don't have anything that's looking good for a north wind. So when you're on the actual challenge and you're getting that north wind, you're like, well, let me go to that spot, even though I'm going in blind, and see what happens. And I've harvested deer going in blind in the dark and setting up in a spot that I'm like, you know what, that looks like it's going to produce. And I've gone in, and I mean, I have a video where I shot a deer at 10 yards that I went in totally blind. Never even stepped foot on that piece of property before, and I was successful, because based on the topography. So my point to you, Joe, is it's still very doable, and also I don't end up always using very many of my spots that I find during the scout. And lastly, too, on that, I always seem to help people and give them tips. So I mean, if you get in there and you do a morning sit and you're like, you know what, I just don't have anything, I'm feeling confident for the evening. I sit down with the guys, whoever won it, and go over what's their options and maybe point out some suggestions. And I will I will say that in the past my suggestions have definitely put people on deer.
Mm. Might have to pull that audible then
Yeah. Yep.
and play that. I think I've got a good amount of spots, at least on the map.
Yeah.
I've got a good amount of spots that look like good night spots. It's my
Right.
morning sits
Right.
that have been a little bit lack for me right now. So
Well,
it's gonna be interesting.
what we can do is even when we get there on the first day, we're going to meet in the afternoon, so we can kind of go over some like we could also do it after the hunt's over. But if we're tracking deer, like if you hit a deer or someone else hits a deer and we're out tracking, and we might not have as much time to go over it. But if we do have time that evening, I will definitely go over it with you. Or if just when we get there to meet up, I can go over some stuff too. And I know the region of the area you guys have access to, so I can actually look at some areas too, and have some suggestions ready for you for when we're there.
Well, I
So
think
that's one thing
my game plan at this point is to day one get there, drop like a 15 point at 8 yards,
nice.
and then mic drop, and then just be camp chef for the rest of the time.
Yeah, dude, you can totally. I mean, you're going to be hard to beat at that point. But
Exactly.
there's definitely good bucks there. I
Yep.
mean,
Oh yeah.
your teammate encountered a huge one, as people are going to see in his scout video. Huge. I
Yeah.
mean, just the beast.
There's
So
there's definitely good deer down there, as long as they're still there when we get there. But
yeah,
if not, we'll be diminishing those numbers for
yeah. Yeah, I know we're kind of running on long here, so
Yep.
I don't want to, I don't know if people are even still listening. I never know, but
No, I'm
I
sure
will
they're
say,
still on.
I will say this: I went and set a stand today. I found this spot this year. I'm doing a map reading challenge on my own in Pennsylvania, like near where I live, and I'm going to sit this spot opening day. It doesn't have deer going into the spot every day, but Joe, I think I showed you a picture of this. You might have even seen it on my Instagram or my Facebook. I put up a picture of this big fat 8-pointer.
Yeah.
I mean, just a big pot belly hanging down. He's got to be at least a 6-year-old deer. And I went and pulled the camera card today at that spot and hung a stand there, because we're 1 week away from the season opener here, but you're allowed on public land in Pennsylvania to hang it 2 weeks. You can hang it 2 weeks before the season starts, and you got to take it down within 2 weeks after. And I was away last weekend, so I went today and pulled the card, hung the stand, and that guy has been on the trail camera more than any of the other bucks that are using the area. But I've only gotten he's been in front of the camera 5 times over like a month and a half period. So he comes, he's there, but not all the time. You know what I mean? But none of the deer do. I mean, it's like one of those spots where I knew it would draw bucks, but it just, I didn't know how much. I think it's going to be more of like a rut type of a place where they kind of make scrapes right there and come check them during the rut. But he's a big boy, and I mean, I would be shocked if I got a shot at him, but I'd also be very grateful. It would definitely be a godsend. So I'm just excited about that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you, man. I hope that pans out for you.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
well, before I let you go, if
Yeah.
there's anybody living under a rock out there and hasn't heard of Sean McVeigh, where can they find out more about you?
Yes. So I have the YouTube channel, Sean's Outdoor Adventures. So if you go onto YouTube, you type that in, you should find it. Or if you type in Sean's Outdoor, all one word, you'll also find the channel that way. I also have the website that I mentioned earlier, seansoutdooradventures.com. You definitely want to check that out and get on the newsletter so you can win the free XOP Air Raid Hang On Tree Stand. And I do have a Facebook page, Sean's Outdoor Adventures. It's got about 1,600 likes right now. I put stuff on Facebook. Usually it's when I post a video, I'll tell my Facebook fans that I've posted a video. I do some stuff on Facebook, but a lot of it is just saying, hey, I posted a YouTube video or something like that. There's some people who are a lot bigger on Facebook or into it than I am. My wife is one of them. She's always on Facebook. But I do have a Sean's Outdoor Adventures Facebook page. I did start a Sean's Outdoor Adventures Instagram thing, but again, that's brand new, and I don't know what I'm doing on there. I think I've got about 130 people following it. It's not very big. I just started that a couple weeks ago. So I do have those outlets. If you want to check those out, I'm still kind of new. I do have a Twitter, Sean's Outdoor Adventures. I don't know if they call it Sean's Outdoors or not, or Sean's Outdoor Adventures on Twitter. But usually my Twitter posts, a lot of the times it's like, hey, I posted a video, So my main thing is YouTube. That's where I'm putting a lot of my focus. And then the other avenues, a lot of that is to share what I've been doing on YouTube a lot. And so, yeah, I mean, this whole podcast thing has me interested. You know, we were talking about it the other day. I mean, I've thought about, people have asked me to start a podcast for a long time now, like over a year. People have been asking me. I don't know. I mean, it's something I might start down the road, you know, and if I do, you can be a guest on my show, Joe.
Oh, I'd be honored. Thank you.
Yeah. You could tell everyone about what it's like to be a participant on the map reading challenge.
Yeah.
And a avid hunter in New York. But anyway, I mean, so, you know, I have that kind of stuff going on. They can find me that way. And you can email me through the website. I'd say, dude, there are people who try to email me through the YouTube thing, but the email service in YouTube is awful, to be honest with you. And so it's really hard to, I hardly ever see those messages. And then I was getting overly bombarded on Facebook recently as the season starting up. And I mean, everybody was asking me everything under the sun. Sean, what kind of arrows should I get? I've got this draw length, this draw pound, and I mean, blah, 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 all these details. I'm like, man, I can't be researching all this for people all day long and telling them what they should get. I have videos on how to pick arrows, you know. But you know, all kinds of. I was getting so overwhelmed. I'm like,
you got to charge like $5 per question and be like,
yeah, for real. Yeah, so I turned the messaging off on Facebook right now for hunting season because I don't have time. You know, I'm just, a lot of the places I hunt, there's no cell phone service, so I can't like answer stuff there. Pretty much, almost all the places I hunt has no service, so. Yeah. It's not like I can just sit in the stand and answer questions. Like I just can't. And so that's turned off right now. But if you have a burning question or anything, you can email me through my website. And if you want to be on the map reading challenge, be a subscriber on the newsletter, because from now on, I'm only taking applications from people who are on the newsletter. So it's really important to be on that. I just want to keep it in the family, as they say.
Yep.
So
that's
me. That's who I am. That's what I'm doing. And you're all part of it.
No, that's all. Sean, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. It's hard to believe we've been talking for an hour. It goes so fast.
I feel like I want to apologize to the listeners. I'm sorry if I've rambled on, and I also want to thank you, whoever you are listening right now. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, I've got a good crew that listen to this podcast. Probably some of the best out there. So
yeah.
If you guys have not checked out Sean's YouTube page yet, get there. Check out the map reading challenge videos from last year, because that was a blast. Even though we got drained, you know, we got drowned in all the rain, but it was a blast. Yeah. And then keep an eye out for the stuff for this year, and make sure you're getting on there to put in votes for this brand new.
Vote for Joe.
Yeah, vote for Joe. At least somebody on Team New York.
Yeah,
I mean, Joe would be great.
Joe.
But
and vote for Joe, and that puts your name in the lottery, so you can win a bow too.
Exactly.
Courtesy of Bowtech.
Awesome. Well, Sean, if you'd hold on the line for just a minute, I'm going to finish up the show quick, and then I'll chat with you.
All right, sounds great.
Well, there you have it. Thank you, Sean, for coming on the show. Appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. As a reminder to everybody out there, please go to wherever you get your podcast from, whether that be iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, CastBox. Hit the subscribe button. The cool thing about the subscribe button is that it shows me that I'm doing something right, whether you leave me a review or not. The second cool thing is that, you know, when I release new episodes every Tuesday, they'll automatically be downloaded and you'll have the opportunity to listen to them right away. I like having, you know, things downloaded and then I delete them when I'm done listening to them, because, you know, I drive all over the place for work, and if I download them, I don't have to worry about having service. I hate listening to a podcast that I'm streaming, and through the middle of it, I end up losing service, and then it just goes into buffering, where I got dead space until I end up driving back into back into service again, and then the podcast starts again. So that's why I really like to, when I hit subscribe to it, it downloads it automatically when new episodes come out. I don't have to worry about searching for them. Again, I really appreciate everybody tuning in, and until next time, take care and God bless.